Hello everyone, welcome, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are joining today. Today we will have like a special Halloween analytic Tableau user group. So I know that some of you are waiting that the event is finished to go tip and tricks, or maybe just treat tricks, but let's see. So what is analytic user group? It's a meetup, a virtual meetup that we have every month, or almost every month. We had 11 per year usually. And it's always around analytics, Tableau desktop, Tableau server, or every Tableau product, including Tableau prep. So please make sure to subscribe here using the QR code. So you are always aware from the next event. By the way, you can already register to the November event that is already published on the website. So we are three leaders of this analytic Tableau user group. Shimdi, that is a database designer, developer at VidSite Analytics. Prasan, who is not here with us today, is a senior BI engineer for Emirates, and myself, Annabelle, who is currently enjoying life. So yeah, just some word about me. I have the pleasure to be an ambassador and a visionary. You have my blog, my Twitter account if you want to reach me. I'm living in Switzerland, and I love Tableau and chocolate. I'm also co-leading an initiative about enablement. If you would like to join, you can register and also check my YouTube channel. Then we have Prasam. He fell in love with Tableau and the data farm and learned a way of giving back. He has a lot of initiatives, including Tableau Birdie and Viz Dinner. He has a lot of followers in LinkedIn, more than the double of mine, and he has like a beautiful Tableau public gallery, and with 4 Viz of the day. Maybe you should update it.
Yeah, he's got more now for sure.
Yeah, I think so. He loves cats, food, and anime. 3 things he can die for. And by the way, you should listen to this introduction, because for December we will have a quiz. And maybe some of the things that we say live are the question of this quiz. And then we have Shimdi here. It's a freelance and contract data visualization for clients. He's also a visionary and ambassador. He has like an impressive Tableau public account with 13 Vivs of the day currently. But I'm sure maybe you can have one additional before the end of the year. We never know. He's a Viz junkie, enjoy a documentary. And yeah, and I have the pleasure to have them both since almost 2 years now, Shimdi? I think so.
3 years now.
Yeah. So the ground rule of today, just have fun, enjoy the session. You can communicate funny comment on the chat. If you have any question, please use the Q&A so we can monitor better the question. And this session is being recorded, and I will post afterward in our YouTube channel, and also send an email and everything on social media, so you can just relax and enjoy. And don't hesitate to send us some love in Twitter using the hashtag analytictalk. Yes, some people are already commenting, Andy, about your Andy cut from the grave.
Wait. The thing is, hi everybody. I haven't got my glasses on, so I can't read anybody's comments yet. I'll be masked in a minute. But for now, I'll carry on like this.
And now we'll let Shimdi introduce the amazing agenda that we have for today. We have made a little change. Andy is first.
Of course, yes. So we've already done the welcome. And so for today, we're going to change the order. Andy's going to give us a talk, Andy's Buffet of Brilliance, 3 little tips for big impact. And then Tori and Heidi are going to talk to us about tremendous Tableau tips. And last but not least, Dawn is going to speak to us about using visual filters in Tableau. And so we're going to jump right to it. We're going to bring in our first speaker to give us the goodies. And so, Andy, I'm sure most people here, you've heard the name, you've seen the face, you've seen the antics, you know who he is. So, we'll just do this as a formality. Andy is the co-author of the Big Book of Dashboards alongside Steve Wexler and a few other people there. And he's a senior data evangelist at Tableau. And so a little bit about his journey. He lives and breathes the mission to help people see and understand any data. He's presented to audiences across the world, inspire them to use data as a vehicle for change. In his writing, he strives to see how data affects and is affected by wider issues in science, culture, and politics. Andy fell in love with data visualization 18 years ago, and he's been incredibly lucky to use his passion to help others develop his skills. So I guess you can say that his data visualization, passion, 18 years old, full teenager, fully grown, fully
Yeah.
And Andy, do you want to maybe share a fun fact about yourself that we don't know?
Oh gosh, a fun fact. Hi everybody. A fun fact. Do people know I'm a magician? Maybe some of the older Tableau people amongst you will know I'm never very far from a full deck of cards.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to see some magic tricks, definitely hit up Andy, and I'm sure he'll be happy to entertain and show you some good stuff. And so for today, his presentation is going to be Andy's Buffet of Brilliance, and he's going to share 3 little tips that are going to have a great impact. Looking forward to this. And so I'm going to stop sharing for now, and I'm going to pass it over to you, Andy. So please go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you for the great introduction. So I'm taking the mask off. If any of you say, "Oh, Andy, take the other mask off. It's really scary," I will disown you from the data fam. So I can, as soon as I get my glasses on, I can see the comments. Right. There you go. Seamless transition back to me. Can't do it. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing an IronViz t-shirt because if you are entering the IronViz feeder, it closes today. So you've got just a few more hours to go. There you go, Pete. You are disowned from the data fam because you said take the mask off. Anyway, it's brilliant to be here with you all. Here's another fun fact. Did you know I organized the first ever Tableau user group back in 2008 or 2009? In the same week or month that Andy Cotgreave also organized one. So user groups have been a key part of my passion for growing Tableau for 18 years now. So I just love the fact that they still exist and grow. So there you go. Right, now keep the comments coming. What I want to do for the next 30 minutes, starting at 5:10, is just share some ideas. I'll break this 30 minutes into 3 10-minute segments. It's more entertaining when you debate and disagree with me. That's if you disagree, that's awesome. Rob was at the first ever Tableau user group. Amazing. It's great to see these long-standing people still going. So Annabelle and I came up with this title, A Buffet of Brilliance, which feels like it puts the pressure on me to perform well. So let's see how we get on. So yeah, I don't need to introduce myself any further. I have a Speak Data newsletter, written the big book of dashboards, but excitingly, there's another one on the way to coming out in May is Dashboards That Deliver. You are the second crowd ever to see the front cover of what the book is going to look like. It'll look something like this. So that's going to be about the process of building dashboards, the actual sort of nitty gritty of how to build these things. So we're looking forward to getting that out. Before I start, if you can, grab a pen and paper. You'll need it in about 15 minutes. But my buffet has these 3 sections in them. First one, and you can just answer yes or no. Should you ever build a text-only dashboard, i.e. a dashboard with no charts on it whatsoever? What do we think? I'm seeing no, yes, sure, yes, it depends. If that's what leadership wants, AJ Womack is clearly a consultant. Depends, no. Who's asking, says Caleb. Yes, why? Right, okay. You're all over the place as a group. This is good. CJ Pace says if someone is using a screen reader, I like it. So let me tell you a little story about the first book of dashboards. I wrote a chapter in that the other 2 authors, Steve and Jeff, didn't want in the book. So this is a deleted scene. So this is the Word document I wrote, which never made it into the book, and it was a dashboard about crisis text line. And they're a company that does emergency counseling to people via text messages, particularly, hopefully preventing suicide, really. And they do an amazing job across the US. And Bob Philbin, who was the head of BI at Crisis Text Line, recognized that he just wanted the data in the flow of work, minimal fuss, minimal cost, minimal coding. And so their dashboards look like this. This is the dashboard I wrote a chapter on. And you might look at that and go, but Andy, that looks like Slack. And I'll be like, yeah, it does look like Slack. These are Slack messages containing these numbers. So at any time of the day, these people, anybody working at Crisis Text Line can, where they're working anyway, call up these numbers to see if they're performance or not. So, everyone's sort of expressed an opinion already. I mean, here's the other: is this a dashboard? Yes or no? Feel free to answer that question here as well. I'm seeing no, yes, right, no, kind of. It's really weird, isn't it? Because it is a display of information, and it does provide the insight you need if, assuming you know whether these numbers are on target or not. Doesn't show you really change in time, but which of the things that you think should make it a dashboard aren't actually present here? Oh, it's strange. Not interactive, says Tom. Yeah, I mean, should the dashboard always be interactive? So these are questions that you always have to ask yourself. And if it isn't a dashboard, does that matter? Is it more important to get the information to the people who need it in the form they need it so that they can get the insights they want from it? Now, the reason Steve and Jeff didn't want this dashboard in the book was because it pushed our definition of a dashboard really far. We had a whole bunch of amazing scenarios already in the book, and they were like, this one's too far. And Steve in particular thought, we are chart makers. If we're not putting charts in a dashboard, then surely it's a fail. I've strongly disagreed with him on that for many years. But I did think a few months ago, I was like, well, what is the smallest change you could make to this to maybe appease Steve and make him happy? And I thought, maybe you just need to indicate whether these numbers are up or down. And you can do this with ASCII code and characters. In Slack, you could do it in using custom emojis. And I iterated a few times. I was like, well, you could make these thin arrows, and you could even just encode the numbers that were below target. So for me, I'm happy that this gives me insightful numbers that people could take action on. I'm not going to persuade all of you who've said no that this is right, but I show you this as a teasing question, right? Is this a dashboard? And if it isn't, what are the things that are missing? And is it vital that those things always need to be present? So Scott's saying, so Wales says this is at least better. That is at least what I was trying to achieve, just to tease our little definitions and boundaries of what is acceptable. Now, Steve and I talked about this a lot recently, and he was like, but Andy, we could just build a chart like this and serve this chart up in Teams or in Slack so that people can at least see the visuals, right? So Scott's happy because I added some arrows. I like that. Thanks, Scott, for the comment. So Steve was like, but just build a chart. And I still think, well, I don't think this is an improvement for reasons that are probably beyond the scope of what we have time for before. But I'm interested. Do people think this is better? I am seeing the comments as well. Bars have nothing to compare to in this case. Well, we arbitrarily decided what the targets are. So the gray would be a target and the blue would be above or below target. But I still think there's challenges in this because you're not comparing this bar to this bar. It doesn't matter. You're not comparing counselors to text. The other challenge with a visualization like this is that in order to make this visualization, you need a database, somebody to write a script, and then you need a visualization package who are spending a license, somebody to maintain it, and it takes time to develop it. With a dashboard like this, if you are strapped for cash, then this takes out any need for a charting tool or a server on which you are and serving up those charts. So something like this is an organization a huge amount of money. And I think somebody mentioned about copy pasting or text readers. If you remember Wordle, why was one of the reasons Wordle took off so well? It's because the text result from every day you did Wordle was copy pastable text. So it was easy. It was absolutely, there was seamless. There was no barrier to copy pasting this text and putting it into another package. Whereas, you know, it's not hard to copy and paste an image, but it is much more accessible if all you're doing is copy and pasting some text. So I'm seeing not many of you like Steve's version. Now, I will defend Steve Wexler. He did that in a really quick way. So he wasn't trying to do that, make a definitive new version, but he was trying to prove a point. But there you go. I guess in the first item in the buffet, if you've been persuaded, then let me know. If you have not been persuaded, then let me know. You know, just let me know. So that's text-only dashboards. I think they have their place. Obviously, in Tableau, we like to build charts. Missing the commas. All right. Don't forget to grab a pen and paper. We'll need that in the third section. Next one, population pyramids. Population pyramids are amazing, but are they the best way to show population? Yes or no? And I'm guessing what answer you're all going to give me. No idea, says Joe. I love your honesty. Most of the time, no. Oh, no. Right. Okay. Good. You don't even know what it's showing, says Karen. That's excellent. Not anymore, says Heidi. Right. So yes, went by cohort day. Right. Okay. So I'm getting a sense of where you all sit. So this is something I've thought about for a long time. Not since 1874, but for about 10, 12 years. Population pyramids were first used in the US Census, as far as we know. This is from 1874. This is a really cool visual, actually, because what you're seeing here is male, female population of Chinese people in the US. And you can see the massive spike of Chinese migrants in China, in a US, pretty much building the infrastructure all you Americans rely on now. So they show population male on one side, female on the other, and going up the y-axis is age group. So at the bottom, you've got younger people. The Swiss got in the habit of using them too. This is from 1897 in Switzerland. Put this one in for you, Annabelle. And of course, we still see them today. This is Viz of the Day by Mark Reed from just a few weeks ago. And he's even put some population pyramids in the bottom right for this profile of South Korea. Gorgeous viz. For those that don't know, I haven't really used the population pyramid. They are valuable, particularly when you have mental models for having learned what the shape means. So here is a population pyramid for Tanzania. We've got males on the left, females on the right, and this is the 0 to 5 age group. And as we go, we've got older and older people. So what you can see once you've learned to read a population pyramid is how these shapes very quickly translate to a mental model of a country. A wide-based pyramid is an expansive population of high fertility and high morality. One like this is Japan, where the bulge is at the top. That's constrictive, and because the baseline is so narrow, a shape like this should instantly, once you've learned how to read a population pyramid, indicate that this is a shrinking population. The US, meanwhile, is a little bit fatter on the base and throughout. So this is a stationary, static population. So, but they're amazing. Population pyramids are amazing. But I'm going to switch to Tableau and tell you the thing that triggered me for actually wanting to talk about population pyramids. If you go to the Commonwealth of if you go to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's homepage and to their data site, they say population pyramids are considered the best way to graphically illustrate the age and sex distribution. And as any good analyst should know, and many of you are, if anybody says something is the best way to visualize something, you're going to get a query from many people, including me. So why don't I like population? I do like population pyramids, but they do me a disservice. So here's a population pyramid. We've got Albania. We can change it to Andorra, Afghanistan, and we're seeing the standard thing. But here are some of the questions. What questions does this chart let us actually answer? Anytime you build a chart, you've got to sort of step back and go, what am I actually seeing here? There are many questions that this doesn't answer, right? I can see, were there more males at 0 to 4 than 5 to 9s? Yeah. And I can see when they shrink, but there's many things I can't answer. So let's see what questions we should be able to answer. But even before we do that, there's a pedantic question about chart layout. What is the dependent variable in this chart? The dependent variable is age, because age is the thing that influences the number of people still alive. And good try, Robbie. I was going to let it pass, but I can see you sort of falling on your own sword in the comments in real time. I love it. And in all our stats class they said the dependent variable should be the x-axis. So in theory, a population pyramid should be turned on its side, at which point anybody who's familiar with population pyramids is feeling very uncomfortable right now, because you're like, oh, it looks sideways, and I've spent every year since school looking at the thing the other way up. So I'll just leave you feeling and Matt points out other genders. Yes, the population pyramids existed in a much more binary world, and that has somewhat changed. Marie needs to turn her head. Sorry, Marie. So here's one question. Whenever I looked at population pyramids, I'm like, are there more men than women? I've got no idea. I have no idea. No idea at all. It's absolutely impossible. But that seems to me a reasonable question. So you could make this a line chart, right? And if we change this to China, then now I think we get a best of both worlds. I can see the shape of the country, so we can see it's quite expansive, but I can also see this delta, right? So everybody who's ever used the population line chart, if we'd have just learned this shape, maybe that would have been better. Placing women in the bottom. Yes. Someone said placing the women in the bottom. Yes, we have inadvertent hierarchy influences when we choose to visualize one way or other. In fact, you'll see that again in a moment. So if the question is, are there more men than women? Population pyramids are terrible because we can't see it from one another. If we actually really, really cared about plotting the difference itself, then we can actually show the difference here. And now we can see the age group at which women really outlast men the most. What about this question? What's the total population at each age group? Well, none of us are very good at totaling 2 bars if they're not on a common baseline. So surely a stacked bar is the best way to show population if you want to see total population. And yes, should it be male on the bottom? Should it be females on the bottom? I don't know, but every chart is a compromise. Every choice is a compromise. You're at risk of making a problem somewhere else. Finally, what about the ratio? Another valid question about demographics at age group is what is the percentage of men and women at each age? In which case we could do a stacked area chart. And this is the point when I was preparing this that I realized red and blue are not a good alternative color choice for maybe pinks or blues, because it's really painful on your eyes. I apologize for my red and blue color choice. But the point is, the reason I went to all this effort is because I read a thing saying population pyramids are the best way to show population, and they are fundamentally not. And Karen also says, yes, red and blue are, yes, I'm sorry, if you're in America and not enjoying your election period right now, then I'm sorry I've triggered all of you. Because I actually look like I have used Democrat and Republican colors, inadvertent. The point being, you can never tell anybody what the best way to visualize data is, because it depends on the question. Your job as an analyst is to understand the audience's question and choose the visualization that is best for that question, not just because textbooks and the website of Pennsylvania tells you it's best. Whew. All right. Sketching exercise. Hopefully you've all got pen and paper. With your pen and paper, quickly draw a bar chart, a line chart, and a scatter plot. I will give you 1 minute to do the exercise. And then I will tell you why I'm doing it, and I'll tell you some other things. So quickly draw a bar chart, a line chart, and a scatter plot. Scott says, right chart for the right data. That is a good mantra. I like it. Yeah, and you're all adding great comments on population pyramids. Each one of those population pyramids I drew, each different version, creates a different problem. Every single chart is a compromise, and it's your job as the analyst to work out the best for each situation that has the fewest negatives. But you'll never get rid of all the negatives. All right, hopefully you've all had some fun drawing. Why on earth am I getting you to draw it? Well, first, you may have seen on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, I asked everybody on LinkedIn to do this. I asked everybody in Tableau to do this. And I'm testing a theory for one of the chapters in the next book, Dashboards That Deliver. So before I tell you why I'm asking you to do this, I predict those of you who drew a bar chart drew 4 bars unsorted, pointing in a four vertical bars unsorted. Yes or no? Did you draw a unsorted 4-bar vertical line chart? Oh God! Right, yeah, a few of you did. 3, right? Okay, 5, loving it. So 3 and 4 was kind of the common. Some people went up, but almost everybody did vertical, right? The line chart. I reckon almost all of you drew 1 line pointing upwards from the bottom left to the top right. Yes, online. Yes, no, yeah. 2 lines, different trends. Heidi, you've been in the field too long. You'll get 2 lines and squiggly lines with peaks. Essentially, says Tanya. Right. So 35 of my 50 responses drew an upwards trend. And almost everybody drew just 1 line and 2 lines, different trends. Yeah. Some people seem to draw lines as if they're a timeline, which I think changes things. Scatter plot. I reckon you all did a positive correlation. Robbie did a reference line. Love it. Nope. Well, yes. Right again. So Nathaniel, did I get 3 for 3 on you, Nathaniel? Most people did a positive correlation, but actually a lot of people just drew chaos. There was 1 person out of 50 that drew a negatively correlated scatter plot. That person also drew a negative, a downward pointing line. They were the only person to do a downward pointing line. Oh no, there was 2 more, right? But that person did both ways. Who heard that person? I'm sure they have many reasons for that. But there aren't any kangaroos in Denmark, says Jen. I get that joke and I love it. Oh, Andy, you're all thinking, so what? Okay. Who likes wireframing and sketching when they build out and prototype dashboards? I do. I love it. And you can see loads of great advice online about how to do it. Jackie and Brian Moore on there, really nice post about sketching wireframes, then moving from sketch to a wireframe. Really good thing. If you go and look at the Economist Big Mac Index, they did an amazing post a few years ago on how they updated the Big Mac Index, and they shared some of their wireframes. Really amazing sketches. And I'm going to share. So I was working at Tableau during COVID, and I'm going to share the wireframe I was given to draw the COVID tracking dashboard that Tableau built, if you remember it. Yep, I was literally given that going, Andy, that's what you need to build. And if you're all having a horrific visceral reaction to this, thinking, what the hell, then that was pretty much the reaction I had. It was a stressful time and people were trying to do things very quickly. All right, wireframes. I love them. But yeah, trauma indeed. But there's a problem. There's a problem. let me tell you a story of what happened about one of the first things I had to do when I started at Tableau in 2012. I was sent to a client in Rotterdam, and they said they're going to build Tableau, but only if you prove they can turn this wireframe dashboard into a working Tableau dashboard. So this isn't the real thing. I've recreated it from memory. But they'd worked with Jan Willem Tulp, who's a really talented data visualization designer in the Netherlands. And they'd come up with this gorgeous sketched wireframe. And I was given that when I arrived. And it's like, look, you've got 4 or 5 hours, build a dashboard, and then we might buy Tableau if it's any good. And there was a problem. So I built the dashboard, but the end result looked a bit more like this. It was garbage. And they were really disappointed. And why was this? Well, we all draw lovely, pretty line charts. And yet the reality of their time data was a bunch of it was missing. It was completely volatile. There was just chaos in their line charts. The bar chart had a gazillion members instead of the 4 or 5 they'd drawn. And then 2 or 3 of them were just such massive outliers. Everything else was just a mere pixel on the x-axis of the Tableau chart. And the scatter plot was absolute chaos. There was no correlation whatsoever between what the 2 fields they were trying to compare. So the thing I learned from this is not that wireframes are bad. It's that wireframes sketch out the best case. And it is very rare that the best case is what your data actually contains. So that we did manage to sell them Tableau, but they weren't impressed with my skills or the ability of Tableau. I did try and tell them that what this shows is that you are asking the wrong questions. Now, normally you say that to Dutch people and they like frankness, but somehow they didn't really like hearing it from this spiky, arrogant British guy. But if you build this and this is what you see, it means, you know, that there's interesting things to discover, but your dashboard looks rubbish. So the point is, wireframes are amazing, but you have to get the real data into the dashboard as soon as you can. Otherwise, you risk building this, and nobody's going to look at that twice because it isn't telling them anything they'll see twice. So I'm enjoying, yeah. So right, Anne. So in fact, Anne, you love it. You say you explore the data first and then start sketching. As we've researched and interviewed loads of people for the dashboards that deliver, it's amazing the just the difference of opinions. Because I think you should be exploring the data first. Some people think you should be sketching first. There is not a correct or incorrect way, but they should be as parallel as they can be forever. Alison says, literally this morning received an email from a user asking if a dashboard was broken because it was blank. And I was like, that's what the data said. Oh, Alison, that's brilliant in its pain. The reality. Oh, I feel the pain. Yes, that's the problem we have sometimes. So with that is my buffet of brilliance. I hope that has been of use to you. If you want to sign up to my newsletter, scan this QR code. There'll be lots of updates of the next episode of Chart Chat and dashboards that deliver its release date, which will hopefully be May 2025. And I'm still enjoying these comments coming. So for that, thank you very much. And hope that was good. Any questions, just keep typing them and I'll ask them in line. Sorry, Robbie, I can't talk for much longer. I've got to go and do trick or treat in a few minutes.
Thanks so much, Andy. That was fantastic. Lots of, things to think about with visualization. And so I'm sure we've all learned something. For those who have questions, please throw them in the Q&A. I don't see any so far. But of course, as you do that, Andy will go ahead and answer. And of course, do sign up to his newsletter. I'm sure you're going to get so much value from that, so you won't regret it at all.
And I'll put a link to the newsletter in chat in a minute.
Perfect.
Thanks, everybody.
Awesome.
And yeah, so last thing, I do have to leave to take my kids on trick or treat in about 10 minutes. So thanks for being in the news group. You're all amazing, and I'll stick around for a little bit.
Thank you. All right. So now on to our next speaker. I'm just going to share my screen. All right. So we have Heidi. who is a Tableau ambassador. And she knew Tableau was the tool for her when she found it as a software developer in 2017. Turning her passion into profession, she started to work as a BI and visual analytics consultant. As far as her Tableau journey, she liberally shares her expertise with users globally through sessions at user groups, conferences, and her blog. And she is the founder and co-leader of Data Plus Women in Germany. She makes it her mission to promote and improve diversity in the data community. And as a senior consultant at Woodmark Consulting, she inspires others with her passion for company-wide analytics consultant. A fun fact about Heidi is that the only thing she loves more than Tableau are alpacas, these little cute animals. So that is cool. The presentation for today is going to be, she's going to give us some tremendous Tableau tips. And she's going to be doing that alongside Tori, who is a Tableau Jedi, a Tableau ambassador, and he's a Norway Tug leader. He's also an accredited Tableau trainer, so I guess lots of experience, percolating and putting out like great Tableau stuff there. A bit about his journey. He works as a Tableau Jedi in Meta Consulting, Bergen, Norway. And he's worked with Tableau since version 7.0 as a consultant, advisor, and trainer. So we're looking at a very, very seasoned Tableau user here. And so let's pay attention because I'm sure we're going to get some amazing goodies. He's also one of Europe's most merited Tableau trainers with over 3,200 participants in 15 countries with a score of 9 out of 10. A fun fact about Tori is that he has over 50 Tableau-related t-shirts, sweaters, and caps. That looks like it's definitely enough to fill out a whole section of a closet. So maybe one day you can post some photos for us, Tori. Anyways, he's going to be giving the talk alongside Heidi about some tremendous Tableau tips. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to pass it over to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you. See that this presentation needs to be updated because the number 50 is now 75. So
Amazing.
yes, I do have my own closet just full of Tableau swag, t-shirts, hoodies, and caps and everything. So we're all nerds in our own way, right? So let me share my screen. So I'm starting, even though you had Heidi there first. I think she don't do this because she knows that if I'm lost, I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to continue presenting tips until the sun sets tomorrow. So you had the introduction, so no more about that. Let's dive into the tips, and please use the Q&A or the chat as well if you have any comments. I saw that Annabelle put in the chat that in a few weeks or 1.5 weeks in London, there's this Data Fam Europe, tiny little conference going. So for those of you who are coming there live in person, you will also be able to see me and Heidi doing some tremendous Tableau tips, not only on a screen, but you can actually see us as well. I promise I'm not going to be wearing this gift then. So let me start by, well, what should I start with? I mean, I have so many. One of them, one thing that I've seen a lot of people struggle with is this level of detail calculations. But if I would like to create a level of detail calculation based on profit per region, for example, you can always create a calculated field, try to figure out the syntax, and knowing that you can't, you have to add that curly brackets on the right-hand side, Andy. Somebody should fix that in Tableau because when you create a sum or whatever, you get the parentheses. So if you take profit, put it on region, but you hold in the control key, you automatically get a calculated field. If you then right-click and edit, I'm just going to put it on the right screen since I have two. If I manage to get it in here, that's always the fun thing when you are doing two screens. You see that now I created a automatic level of detail calculation where I fixed on region and I have the sum of profit and I have my curly brackets. I don't have to write that on my own. So is that coming, Andy? Do you have any plans to implement this so we don't have to write fixed?
I'm not sure about that one. Sorry. I'm always
That's
wearing these tips and tricks that you guys come up with. It's like the more we solve, we give you nothing else to do, right? That's a terrible
exactly.
attitude.
Yeah, and that's what I do every Wednesday. I'm publishing a tiny Tableau tip, and I love tiny Tableau tips. So that's what you're going to get from me now for the next, was it 75 minutes or so. So I'm going to put in my countries, or just double click on my countries. You have multiple countries. I obviously always use, even though Norway is not part of EU, I'm using the EU Superstore because the other Superstore is so boring. There's so much US data in there, and nobody cares about US these days, right? There's just an election, and we can talk about that next week. If I now change the marks card to map, I have my field maps. I can obviously do some color on the different countries, but now I have multiple countries, multiple colors, and there's a lot of these colors, and you don't have to use colors just because you can. But one thing that I've used actually a couple of times, and that's especially when you have all these, there's a lot of tiny countries in here that it's not a bit difficult to see. You could of course do a hex bin map, but if you get rid of the latitude and longitude, increase the size a bit, if I manage to find this over here, you actually get one shape of each of your countries in your map. And then you can add in some sales onto size. Then you have a problem again, which or some of these tends to be a bit small. I mean, look at Norway; it's so tiny over there. So I don't prefer to put any measure in here, but I can still put sales on detail if I want to, because then I can right click on my country, I can go to my sort, and then I can sort my countries based on how much sales I do have in the view as well. So the one that have the biggest or the smallest could be first or last. So you can have those unique shapes. It doesn't have to be countries either, because if you drill down to states, suddenly I have states, but I can't see all of them because it doesn't fit into the view. I'm just going to keep Norway for now. And you see some Norwegian states in here, and they all get the same size, and it really doesn't matter how big they or small they actually are in the view. So I'm going to keep this and create a new sheet. And this is a tip I actually showed to a client I worked with yesterday, because they wanted to do something next to this particular sheet that I'm in, but they go to the right-hand side, they click a new sheet, then the sheet pops up all the way on the right-hand side. It's not a problem when you have like 5 or 6 sheets like I do, but I would like to move the sheet over here. That's fine. I can drag it over, but you, like me and many of you, most likely have 30, 40, 50 sheets and dashboard in the view. There's a couple of tips here. One is if you go down to the right-hand side corner, there's some icons over there. You can have the standard show tabs. You can have the film strips. So you can have a preview of your sheets, or you can have this sheet sorter. So when you have created this new sheet, it's all the way in the end. You can drag them, or you can reorganize everything, and then you can double click and get in there. But what I like to do, if I would like to build or create a new sheet next to the one that's active today, Control plus M, give you a new sheet next to the active one, and you don't have to drag them all the way back and forth. So we were looking at maps earlier, right? So for me, working or living in Norway, for that matter, if I go to the map in here, and I basically only have data for Norway. So I could then filter Norway, of course, like this, keep only, and I see only Norway. Really frustrating for us Norwegians that we have those Swedes on the right-hand side. We have Finland, we have Denmark, we have Iceland somewhere over here as well. But I only would like to see data for Norway. Or not data, obviously, because I do have data for Norway, but I only would like to see Norway in the view. So it doesn't help to filter, but I could go to my map background layers in here. If I do a washout and I have a filled map like this, I keep Norway. I get rid of those neighbors that we don't care too much about. And I can then put in some data about my cities. I put this as a new marks layer like this. And would you look at that? Oslo has moved to the States. So has Sandnes, which is a city not too far from where I live now. And this is actually really fun to look at, to find your own cities in the States. The reason why it's putting in there is obviously that Tableau is from the States and everybody has a focus on their own country. So if I now put country, region on detail, it knows that these Norwegian cities are actually somewhere in Norway because it's now connected to the correct country as well. I'm just going to put this on detail and change the color so you can see them. Still a bit annoying that when I hover over, I see Norway in here, but I would like to focus on the different cities or even the sales in these cities. So if I would like to get rid of the interactivity or the highlighting of the map in here, since I have marked layers, I can go in and say I'm going to disable this selection. Sorry, that not on the city, obviously, because that's the other way around. I'm going to go for country, go in here and disable selection. See that nothing happens when I hover over Norway, but it happens when I hover over Bergen. And Bergen, this is where I am at the moment on the west coast of Norway, where it's now been raining 120 millimeters today. So nice trick-or-treating day weather. So we have a map. I'm going to go over to another one that something that I'm going to credit Kimberly Scott for. My nemesis, she beat me in San Diego at the tip battle over there in the finals. But she had a really nice one where we looked at some data. So I'm just going to copy paste. This is an extra tip though. You can go to a web page, Wikipedia or Excel or whatever else. Control C and Control V. And when you then Control V inside of Tableau, something hopefully will happen. Basically, I'm copying my data in here. I get a clipboard with all my data. And we see that if I add my date and some exciting measure in here, what happened, I'm not sure because I should have some empty, oh, sorry, I didn't copy the entire data set. That's why. That's my fault. That's why you should always practice before you go and present at a user group, right? So I'm going to copy again. Now I have a clipboard and I have nulls in here. And since Tableau recognized this as a date, I can right click on my nulls and I can't edit my alias. Really annoying. But if you change this to a string, you still have your dates. You can right click and you can edit the alias and call this no date available, blah, blah, like this, and it's all fine. If you then change this back to a date, you lose your alias. So if you really need it to be a date, this doesn't work when you have a live connection. So the extra tip in here, if you can't just have it as a string like this, you need to keep it as a date. You need to extract your data. I'm just going to extract it like this. And then you see that my date is still a date and I have no date available as an alias instead of null. Pretty cool. When we talk about aliases, and I'm going to create, go back to my sample Superstore data. I have all the customers. They have sold something and that's all fun and cool. But I would like to create a set in my data. So I go to my customer name, right click, I'm going to create a set. And my set should be a top set. So it's dynamic. Whenever there's new customers or new sales coming in, the top 10 will change. So I'm just going to call it a customer name set, drag it in here. And then you see I have, now you can see that I already have been cheating because I did this earlier today. Because normally when you create a set, it will say in or out. So ruining the surprise. If I now change the edit alias in here, normally it would say in, but you can call it whatever you want, top 10 sales like this. And then whenever you create a new sheet and you use this customer name set, you have these already done. So if I would like to now validate and check that the top 10 sales are actually 10 customers as well, I drag in my customers, I right click, I change this measure to account like this, and now it's giving me a bar, which is also fine, but I need to make this discrete. And then it says 248. Of course, I can't count the customers because one customer might have 5 or 10 or 200 orders. So I need to change this to count distinct. And it says 10, top 10 sales customers, and the other one is 785. But you saw that that took me like 5 or 6 steps, right? And I hate to not to spend time in Tableau. I love to do that, but I have to waste time in Tableau. So if I right drag instead of left dragging my customer name, so I right drag, I get this drop field window where I then get all the different options of how would I like to treat my customer name. Well, I would like to treat it as a count distinct, and just make sure that it's discrete, and I have 10, 7, 85. This also works with measures, obviously. So if I drag in my profit, put it in ABC, I can see that I can do profit like this. I can do sum, average, and all the different type of aggregation that are available for you. And that was a few tips. I think that I have more. As I said, I don't like to spend time on clicks. So when it comes to parameters, there's so many cool stuff. I mean, dynamic parameters, that was the big thing a few years ago. Still stuff that Tableau needs to do, or we hope that they can do. If I go and create a parameter, now I'm just going to delete this, so I haven't done this before. Create a parameter, and let's say I'm going to have a parameter with all my subcategories. So I can create a list, and I can start putting my number or my names in here. That's something that I don't want to do. I can go to the when workbook opens, and then you can go to, of course, find subcategory in here. But that will then make this dynamic, which is fantastic. But if you would like to have just like 5 of these or 10 of these or a list of these, and whatever, there's new ones coming in next time you open up the workbook or the data changes, this is not the way. So I'm going to say cancel. Because if you go to subcategory, you can go directly to any dimension. You can go there and create a parameter directly from any dimension. It will then fill the list in here, and it's fixed. It doesn't go automatic when the workbook opens. So this is one step in the way of creating the list of values in the parameter. One of the next steps you very often do is to go and create a calculated field where you create a case statement where you're going to have exactly the same names that you have in here, that you're going to say case when this value, then show me something, when this value, show me something else. I can't do Control A and copy in here, Control C, that doesn't work. But if you then go to your create calculated field, there's nothing you can, it doesn't work to paste those values in there. You could always, if I'm just going to clear the screen in the background, I could add my subcategories like this, Control A, Control C, go back here, Control V, then I have the list. Saves me some time, right? But I still need to do the when subcategory, then something. So I like to cheat, or not cheat, but I have copied some text in here. So I'm going to zoom this in. Control plus, you know this trick as well when you have a calculated field, right? Because the text is like -5 in size, so it's really difficult to look at the calculation. But if you zoom in with Control plus, you see that I have a string when whatever dimension you would like to have, in this case subcategory, then plus an index. This could of course just be this is the one that you would like it to show, so you still need to do some manual labor. So I'm going to say okay to this, add in my calculation, and you see that this calculation has when accessorize, then something like this. Select all. You can then go to view the data, for example, copy just the calculation one, so basically all the text. Go back to any calculation or create a new one. And if of course that didn't work now. Let me try again. Did I select everything in there? Sometimes, as I like to say, you just need to trust me that it works. So Control C, only the calculation 1, and I'm going to try again. If it doesn't work, I'll promise you that it worked earlier today. There we go. Luckily for me, it works. So now I have my case, whatever, a parameter, for example, if I have had created a parameter in here, then I could do the when, and I save some time as well. And as Betsy says, you can, of course, go into ChatGPT and do this, but you still need to have a list in there, and you need to, yeah, you might save some time, but then you get an answer and it's not exactly the correct thing. And then you ask it, could you please change it? And it says, obviously you are correct. I am stupid. I'm going to fix it. And then you spent a lot of time and you're going into that rabbit hole, and you spend way much time over there as well. One thing that I've missed quite a lot, I haven't created any dashboards yet, so I'm just going to put in a couple of dashboards in here, this one, and we're going to add in a filter for customer name. I'm going to add in add in whatever we have in here. We didn't have a parameter because I didn't save it. Way back when, which is a few months ago, when you go into any dashboard, you go in and edit and you do format, because you would like to format this with the font, the alignment, whatever else you would like to name, fix this so that it looks perfect in your template for your customer or for your organization or for whatever you do. You have to go into this one, you have to go into this one and do the same thing for that specific filter or this specific set or this specific parameter. But not anymore, because if you pay attention to the format menu, this is something that, something that suddenly just arrived. I didn't see any announcement of it, but there was now not only this filter, but all filters and set controls. All parameters you can adjust and format throughout your entire workbook, and it will save you lots of time. Yeah, you can, of course, always use Excel, but that's the most fun thing after doing training for thousands of people. And the one question that you always get when you build this beautiful dashboard with all these charts, whatever the charts are, how can I get this data into Excel? And then I say, thank you, we are done for today. And they have to leave the classroom. Let's see, we have a couple of other things in here. Let's go back to this one, clear the screen, and just gonna add in some data because I just double click, create a scatter plot. Let's see if this is positive or negative. I don't know. It really doesn't matter either. But when you have a scatter plot with multiple dimensions into the view like this, we put this on detail. Did you know on the tooltip itself, of course, you can click on it. You've done that multiple times, I hope. But whenever you have a dimension like country, state, subcategory, and it's underlined, so if I underline or click on this United Kingdom, it highlights everything that's related to United Kingdom, to England, to storage. If this doesn't work on your beautiful dashboard, it could be that on the tooltip dialog box, this allow selection by category is ticked off. Because if this one is ticked off, it doesn't work to do this highlighting like this. Another trick here on the tooltip is whenever you've selected something, so we're looking at profit and sales now for just machines in UK, England. If I now select United Kingdom, we can also see in the tooltip 47 items selected and the total sum of profit for that specific or selection that you've selected. So tooltip is quite useful and helpful. I had a bar chart here from before. So if I would like to highlight my top 10 sales, that's really easy. I just click on it like this, or I do the rubbish customers like this. But if you would like to keep this highlight on for all times, so you really highlighting those top 10, you can then right click. Right click is obviously your best friend in Tableau, next to Control Z when you undo everything that you mess up. If you go to mark label, it says automatic, but if you say always show, it will now first of all show all the labels in here. those values that that is highlighted. But the other thing is, if I right click again, that doesn't work if I only have one color. So I'm going to put my in and out on color as well. So I have these that are blue, these ones are gray. If you select something like this, or the ones that you are selecting, if you like this particular color that pops up when you're highlighting, like I do here now, you can right click on this one, and then you can assign the highlight colors to your palette. So you can save off these. You see now this is light gray because the other one was highlighted. So it really even pops out without doing those color selections in the view. So I'm getting close to roughly 20 something minutes plus. I'm going to do a couple of more, and then I'm going to leave it over to Heidi. And that is about dates. I talked a bit about dates earlier, and it is when you're creating, when you're connecting to data, especially if you live in other places or in places where you're using the ISO weekend based. You know, your organization, your client would like to look at data for each and every week. Then you add a year in here. You go in and change it to ISO year, and then you have the week based as a standard. But you don't want to do that every time you create a new sheet. You add in order date, or you change to whatever you're looking at, maybe the week number, and then you go to week based. You even see that the dates are changing in the background over here when you do that. So if you have a data source like I have with the sample EU Superstore, right click on it, and then you have the date properties option. There's so many hidden properties and options in Tableau. The date properties in here, you can say that what should be your default calendar. Should it be the standard Gregorian, or for the entire data set, should it be ISO week based? When should the week start? Well, if you're the ISO countries, it's Monday anyways. If you're standard Gregorian, you can change to what day does the week start, what fiscal year does your company or organization work for. So this is, if you change this, it changes for the entire data source, and you don't have to modify and adjust every single one when you're working on it. Yeah, I think I filled enough time in here, so I'm gonna do some shameless promotion. I'm running the Norwegian Tableau user group, and in a few weeks we have a Nordic Tableau user group combined, where we have Chantilly, she's a Hall of Fame visionary, talking and presenting, and we have one presenter from all the Nordic countries. So that's going to be amazing. If you're in Oslo, come join us. If you're in Tampere in Finland, join them. Otherwise, sign up and meet us in virtually. I'm going to put the link in the chat afterwards. And then also I'm co-hosting together with 3 other nice blokes the Data Plus Maps user group. We started just after summer, and we have our next meeting on November 28th, where we're going to have Judith Becker and Mark Reed to present and be spotlighted, and the Data Plus team leaders are going to present their best tips and tricks. And there's a benefit in here, because we haven't created a logo yet, meaning this is created by ChatGPT, obviously, for free. If you create one logo and banner for us, you can win $50 at the Tableau store. So, I mean, why not? Thank you, and I'll leave it for you, Heidi, and I'll see if there's any question for me that I can answer as we move along.
Thank you, Tore. Right in the beginning, when you started doing your tips, someone said in the chat, "Oh, I'm so afraid I will need all of these tiny tips in my certification exam." And that last one with the date properties actually was in my certification exam. So just for you to know, incidentally, 2 months ago, I published a LinkedIn Learning course on Tableau certification exam preparation. So just since we're doing a tiny bit of promotion, let me do this one. yeah, so if you're on LinkedIn, you can hit this course up for free for 24 hours. So let me know if you can't find it. I'll gladly send you the link. All right, self-promotion done. Let me talk a tiny bit about myself. I mean, you learned the most important bits earlier. I'm Heidi. Hi, I'm an associate solution expert at Woodmark here in Germany. I've moved to Berlin, and I do love alpacas and also Tableau. So the funny thing is, when I started preparing for this tips session, I only prepared the tips and not the introduction slide about myself. So I had to come up with an older slide. And it turns out, since I used this the last time I was promoted, and also I moved cities. So I had to come up with tiny overlay texts. And the fun thing is, usually when you drag something into Tableau, it will try to make it tiled. And then you can go, oh, no, I actually didn't want that. Go back out, change it to floating, and then bring it back in. Or you could just bring it in first while still tiled and then make it floating after. Or you can also just take it and then press the shift button to switch in between the two. And the funny thing is, you can do that with any object, whether it's already in the dashboard. So I can take this floating object and then press shift, and that will turn it back to tiled. So that's pretty nifty, because honestly, when I go into the drop-down menu, it always takes me ages to find the floating button for some reason. So yeah, first tip here. Also, did you know that you can carve mandarins? Like, just a tiny Halloween hack right here. Anyway, let's actually delve in. So in the Tableau community, I found that some people are team tiled and some people are team floating. So let me know in the chat which team you're on. Are you team tiled or team floating? Personally, I'm very much team tiled, but I do float stuff occasionally. Oh, that's a lot of floating people here. Well, 98% tiled, Tore. Spoken like a true consultant. All right. So I do actually like adding floating stuff, especially text boxes like this one here. So this one even says I'm a floating text box. The thing is, this one is not really interesting to you as the consumers of this dashboard. It's just important to me as the developer. And maybe if I go on PTO and hand off this dashboard to another developer, this text box may be important to them as well. But I don't want it visible in the actual dashboard, right? So I would like to drag it off the dashboard. The thing is, as soon as I do that, so as soon as I delve into this light gray area, Tableau says, oh, you want to delete it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to delete it. So what do? I just drag one corner over and then drag the other corner over. And that's how you can move things off of dashboards. Can be quite nifty. All right, so I have this dashboard. I do want to add some things. So I add in a first chart here, and Tableau adds a lot of stuff that's also in here. So I have a filter, I have a parameter, I have a color legend, etc. And these are all in a vertical container because that's what Tableau does by default. The thing is, I don't want them in a vertical container. I want them next to each other horizontally. So how can I do that? Of course, I could create a new container and then drag them in there one by one, or I can do it the smart way. I can just drag in a horizontal container, then take this vertical container. You can grab the container by double-clicking on any item in it, drag it into the horizontal container, and if I now remove this container, it's all only in the horizontal container, so it's all next to each other. Now, the thing is, I don't actually want this in the dashboard right now because, as soon as I add other things, this gets really messed up. Tableau just arranges them anywhere, and I don't want that. I just first want to start with all of my items and then bring in, or with all of my sheets, and then slowly bring in the filters, etc. But I don't want to delete them because, like Tore said, we want to save on clicks, right? So I don't want to delete them now and then bring them back later on. So what I would like to do is also float them off the dashboard. So I just grab this whole container and make this one floating as well. And do the same trick as I did just a second ago, drag it off on one end and then drag off the other end. And the fun thing is, if I now add another sheet to the dashboard, everything that was also accompanying the sheet, like color legends, etc., will be added to the floating container, and then I can later bring them in one by one as I like. Right, so I want to bring in this filter, so I bring it just back into the dashboard. And also let's make this actually a single value dropdown. So you see, I've selected Bridgerton here because That's a series I like, but I don't want to make that pre-selection for my users. What I would like to do instead is just not select anything. But the thing is, if I go to all, this contains something like 20,000 values. So you can see it does take a while to process that request. And I know that my users hate nothing more than a dashboard that takes ages to load. But again, I don't want to make a pre-selection. So what I would love to do instead is I want to just show no values in the beginning. So I edit my filter, if Tableau ever shows it to me, and I just go with none. Now, the thing is, if I publish it like this, my users will hit up my phone, go, Heidi, the dashboard is broken, all the data is gone, Tableau sucks, why aren't we doing Power BI instead? And that's not a conversation I want to have, quite frankly. So what do? We add in a hint here. So again, I want to bring in a vertical container. I press Shift to make it floating. And let's actually give it a border so that you can see what we're dealing with here. Now you'll see why I made a container in a second. For now, I just want to add a text here that says, please select a show from the filter to actually see data, right? So make this bright and bold and big so that users can see it. The thing is, they see this hint, they go, okay, first have to select something from the filter. So maybe they select something from the filter, everything's fine, except that the text box is now in the foreground. And I don't want that, right? I want this one gone. So of course you could go in here and say, hey, let's just add a show hide button. So they can go, okay, let's hide this now. But then the show button is still there. So how do we get rid of the show button? Well, we just show this whole thing again. Bring this hide button into the container. And because the hide button now hides the container, it also hides itself. And that's how you get a one-time hint that will be gone as soon as users close it. The thing is, this is really very much gone now. So please remember to undo that last step before saving your workbook, because otherwise you will never get this back. But very nifty hint that I use far too rarely. Okay. Let's talk about tables. Who doesn't love talking about tables? Because we do have those people who are just starting with Tableau, and that's okay. So I have a table here. I'm looking at the IMDb rating for the individual episodes of my favorite TV series, Taskmaster UK. Check it out if you haven't yet. All right, and I want to not only see the rating, I also want to see how is the comparison to the season average. Now, the thing is, I want to see that comparison for the individual episodes, but not for the whole season, because that doesn't make sense. So what can I do? I go to that measure, and under total using, I can say I want to actually hide that total. So that's how you can decide to just show totals for some of your numbers. And the thing is, I now want to be able to add some custom formatting. So what do? I want to color this using the comparison. Of course, I could drag comparison to color, but the thing is, it now colors everything by the comparison value, which is not what I want. Instead, I want separate color legends. So I take my measure values that I already have on text, and I control drag them to color. Now, Tableau gives everything one color legend, which is also not what I want. So I want to right-click and use separate legends. So I now have one color legend for the rating and one for the comparison to the season average. The thing is, I didn't really want to color the IMDb title rating, right? I just wanted to color the comparison, but I can't not color one or the other. So what do I do here? I can just double click on the color legend for the one I don't want colored, and I can do a diverging color legend. You feel like that's making it worse, but give me 1 sec. So we change one side of the diverging color to black. We change the other side also to black. And now we make it a stepped color that incidentally only has 2 steps. And now it's technically colored, but it doesn't feel like it's colored. So that's one way of doing custom formatting. And also you can see that my totals are still gray. So in the color legend, you can include totals, and then they are also colored the same way. One more thing that I want to do here is I don't really like how the numbers are formatted. I want to make it obvious that some are above and some are below. So what can I do? I can right-click and format my numbers here. Or if I want to do it the same way every time, I can right-click and go to default properties and format my numbers here. So first off, I want to make this a custom number that only has one decimal place. And then jump to custom, and I want to add in a plus at the very beginning here to show that some of these have a positive change, right? So they are either positive above or negative below the season average. The thing is, Tableau does that for the 0 values as well, and also I want to make it even more obvious. So what we can use here are UTF-8 values. What are they? Well, you can just go to essentially any search engine of your choice and search for UTF-8 characters. And then you get a list of these geometric shapes, for example, that you can use. Not only geometric shapes, you can also take coffee cups or tulips or music notes or whatever you need. In my case, I wanted these triangles to show we're going up or we're going down. And I can just copy these, copy one and also copy the other. And if I go back to Tableau and where am I? Right-click, change the default properties with the number format. I can now paste one in the beginning with the upward triangle and then another one here with the downward triangle. And now I have the upward triangle for positive values and the downward triangle for negative values. And you can do that a bunch of times. Now, again, I don't really want my plus minus 0 values to show an upward plus, right? So what can we do here? We, again, right-click default properties, number format, and we have the positive values at the beginning, then a semicolon, then the negative values. And if we add in another semicolon, we can change the 0 values now. So I could just make this a 0, or I could actually give this a phrasing. I could say, hey, this is actually on par with the season average, so let's call this one on par. So we confirm and close with OK, and you can see that the 0 values now say, hey, I'm on par with the season average. So a lot of things you can do here. And yeah, reversely, if you want to color the background, you just change the marks type to square, and of course make the color legend white instead, or whatever your background color is, as a side note here. Annabelle just stopped me from talking whenever I'm taking too long. All right, in the database community, there's this whole conversation around, are we allowed to truncate axes? Because you can see here, IMDb ratings go from 0 to 10, and most of these for, again, my favorite series, Taskmaster UK, are around 8, between, let's say, 7.5 and 9. So do we have to show the whole axis? Well, if you're showing bar charts, then yes, absolutely, you have to show the whole axis. But what if we change this to a line chart? Can we then truncate the axis? Well, I don't really want to make that decision. I want to allow my my end consumers to take that decision. And in order to do that, they do need a parameter. So let's give them a parameter. I want to call this one zoom axis ? And I give this a question mark so they know, hey, I can take action here. The answer will be a Boolean type, so either true or false. If true, then yes, zoom in. Or if false, then no, show axis in full. We confirm and close with OK, and let's actually show this parameter so that we can see what we're dealing with here and make this a single value list so you can see what we're currently selecting. Now, I need one more thing. I need a calculated field. And I call this one my 0 line. And let's make this bigger, as Tore showed us earlier. And now, depending on my zoom axis parameter, if it's true, then I want to show the value null. If they want to show the axis in full, so it's false, then I want the value 0. And believe me, this is horrible to explain in German because it's null and null. Anyway, null or 0 here. And what do we do with this? Well, this creates a calculated field, and we drag this one to detail. And what do? We right-click on the axis and add a reference line. And not using the average IMDb rating, but rather using the 0 line instead. And I want to make this really big and bold and dashed, just to make it extremely visible. The thing is, we can't really see it right now because currently the value is null. So no 0 line here, but if I select no, show axis in full, then you can see the 0 line pops up. But why did we bring it in here? Well, now it's time to right click and edit the axis. I want to kind of leave it on automatic because if, with further seasons, the IMDb rating changes, I want the axis to adapt to that too. So I don't want to fix the axis. Also, I want it to remain automatic so that it changes depending on what users select here, right? But I don't want to include 0. So I deselect that box. The thing is, the axis still extends to 0 because we have the 0 line in here. As soon as I say, yes, zoom in, the 0 line vanishes and we now have a zoomed in axis. Or no, we want to show the axis in full, then we just bring it back. Now the only thing that's left for me to do is right click and edit my 0 line and actually have it show no line instead, so that it's not even visible to the users what's happening here. It's just magic. The fun thing is you can do the same thing, not only with do you want to show 0 or not, you can do it with synchronization as well. So do the exact same thing. If I wanted to show also the number of votes and make this a dual axis, then you would all probably agree that synchronizing here doesn't really make it a lot of sense, but maybe users want to do it. So same thing, we want to create a parameter, call it synchronize, ? Make it a, what do we do? A Boolean, and then say, yes, synchronize, or no, don't synchronize. And do the pretty much the same thing. So we think about which of these values is smaller, show the parameter, and then create a calculated field. So synchronize. So depending on what's in the parameter, if we do want to synchronize, then we take the maximum of those two values. So we either take the average IMDb rating, or with a comma, we take the sum of the title number ratings. Maximum here allows us to take the larger of the two values, else we just don't want anything, and that's it. And we can, again, bring this in here, just bring it to all the axes. Incidentally, I think the left one should be smaller. So right-click, add a reference line, and make sure to use this, where is it? The synchronize element, and make sure to use the maximum here so that it extends across the whole axis. We could even do the entire table. It doesn't really make a big difference here. And then again, vanish this one and get rid of the line again. And if I now select to not synchronize, it's still synchronized. And it depends on what I select here. If I don't synchronize, then the values change. But if I do decide to synchronize, again, it adapts accordingly. So fun thing here. Maybe one more tip. Cool. All right, ranking. I'm looking at all the episodes and I want to know which one is the best one. And they say it's episode 8 of season 5. It's a good one, but honestly, I'm mostly interested in season 4 because that one's my favorite. And I can see here that we have the individual episodes of season 4 in ranks 3, 7, 12, etc. And if I now filter on season 4, it changes the rank. So it only ranks those within season 4. But that's not what I want. I want to know overall, with all the episodes, what rank are they in? So why does it do that? Tableau follows the order of operations. And if you've never seen this one, then you better check it out. So how does Tableau think, essentially? First off, we have extracts filters because, Tableau takes a copy of your data, and if it's not in a copy, it's physically not there. Next off, data source filters. They are the first thing that gets queried to the data source. Then let's skip context filters for a second. We have dimension filters. So they determine which rows of your data go into it. Then Tableau aggregates those rows into measures, hence why measure filters come after. And if you put an aggregation on top of an aggregation, that's a table calculation. So those come last. Now, the thing is, we are using dimension filters here, but the ranking is actually a table calculation. So of course, if we filter on the rows, our table calculation will be disturbed by that. So if we want to filter and still maintain the rank, then we have to use a table calculation filter. So what do we do here? We right-click and create a calculated field and filter on the season. So what do I want to do? I want to look something up. I want to look up my season number, and I want to offset that, because that's what lookup does. It looks at a neighboring cell and says, hey, what's your value? Now, the thing is, I don't want to look at a neighboring cell. I want to look at my own cell. I want to know what's my season number, right? If I'm an episode. So I want to offset by 0. Tableau still complains because this is a table calculation. You need to aggregate everything in a table calculation. So let's throw in a minimum for good change, because honestly, we only have 1 season number per episode, so this will work. And we can now bring this into the filter. Let's actually, no, we can't, of course. And if I now, let's undo the filter, let's drag this one into the filter, and I only want to show season 4, then you can see that this will maintain the ranking as I had it before. And I guess that's my time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my time. Okay, yes. Thank you so much. And because Tove advertised for his events, I can do the same. So I co-lead Data Plus Women Germany with my co-host Julia Büchting, and we currently have a series on a day in the life of different jobs in the data industry. So if you're looking for a change, or you want to know, hey, what does a data analyst / engineer even do, then absolutely join us in the series. Very short events in the afternoon, 30 minutes max. So join us, ask your questions, and maybe find a new job while you're at it. Thank you.
Awesome. Lots of amazing tips. And from the comment section, it definitely looks like a lot of people are going to be rewatching this video. So amazing job. I myself, I'm blown away. So this is just beautiful. So now we move into the final portion of today's meeting. We're going to bring in our last but not least speaker. So I'm going to just quickly share my screen. Awesome. So now we've got Dawn here, and a little bit about Dawn. Dawn is a Tableau software engineer VP at JP Morgan Chase & Co. She has her own blog site called techtipsgirl.com. I've seen that blog. It's very valuable. She writes articles covering a variety of topics in Tableau, Alteryx, and Microsoft Office. And then a bit about her journey. She has her own YouTube channel under the same name as well, and she's an Alteryx innovator. She currently has 2 degrees, BFA in art education and a computer applications degree. Her personal and professional goals are to help educate as many users as she can through her tech tips, and she hosts many training sessions at her company, and she's also volunteered to host and present many talk sessions. Her blog articles, they've been featured in the Data Fan Roundup and used in Tableau training. And the fun fact about Dawn, outside of Tableau, she loves all things sci-fi, including Doctor Who, Marvel, Star Trek, and Star Wars. Cool stuff. Today, her presentation is going to be use visual filters in Tableau. So I feel like all these topics go really well together, which is fantastic. I'm going to stop sharing now. I'm going to pass it off to you, Dawn. So please go ahead and give us the gist today.
Hello, everybody. Last but not least, let me see if I can share my screen. And I also have a Doctor Who lamp in the background. I don't know if you can tell, but that's a Doctor Who lamp. All right, let's see. Share my screen now. Okay, all right. So, like I mentioned, I have my own blog site, Tech Tips Girl. I don't know if you can tell, but my favorite color is purple. I don't know. It's kind of subtle on my site here. But my website, if you see me in the Stormtrooper, you know it's me. YouTube channel, Tableau profile, also purple banner. Coincidence? I think not. So wanted to just go over a tip I actually learned from visionary Zach Geis back when he had his data theories site, and I'm going to his Tableau public profile now. He had this article on doing visual filters. So using an image instead of a parameter drop down or that kind of thing to interact, have your users interact with a dashboard. He even went the next steps of changing the colors of the items in the charts behind the scenes. So I wrote it up in a blog article, visual filters, because like as I said, his site is no longer up and running. But I wanted to go through how to do this. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to go ahead and go to Tableau Public. And just for interest of time, I'm not going to recreate all these things. So I created a bar, a line chart, and a map. So what I wanted to do is to go ahead and put these together and create our visual filter here. So the first thing that we need to do is create a parameter. So I'm going to go ahead and right click. Oh, look, even my mouse pointer is purple. All these coincidences today. Create a parameter, and I'm going to do a list parameter called worksheet type. And this is going to be a string. And I'm just going to name, list the names of the charts that I'm looking at. So bar, then I'm going to do a line, and I'm going to put a map. So listing, line, bar, and map. I don't know if you all have found this out, but I find Tableau to be similar to Excel. I know dreading saying Excel, that you can do a certain thing many different ways, just like you can in Excel. Do a certain function many different ways. So let me go ahead and click OK on this parameter. And the next step I'm going to do on each of these charts is I'm going to apply a filter. So I'm going to save time and right click on my parameter and select Create Calculated Field. And by doing this, it's going to put the parameter field right in my calculated field. So I don't have to keep typing out worksheet type. It's already in there. And so I'm going to do worksheet map. And if the worksheet type equals map, then so I'm going to put this, it's going to make a Boolean calculated field, and I'm going to put this directly on the map. But first, I'm going to show my parameter. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on worksheet type and select show parameter. And I'm going to make sure I'm selecting the thing I'm on. So I'm on the map, so I'm going to select the map. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the worksheet map on filters and select true. Another thing I like to share, which is a quick tip, is about organization and documentation. So what I like to do with all of my calculated fields is I like to organize them by folders. So I'm not sure, be kind to your future self, which is what I tell all of my students. Make sure you organize this, so if you ever have to go back to it 6 months from now, you're not like, what was I doing? And you have them organized. Or if you're sharing workbooks with other people on your team, it's just always good to organize your calculated fields into folders. So with this drop down up here, you select, instead of group by data source table, you're going to say group by folder. And you can select many different calculations at once by holding your control key and saying create, folder, create folder. And it'll put both of these calculations in the same folder because you have them selected. So I'm just going to call these dashboard calcs, and then they're all in one folder. So just a good way of organizing, And the other thing I like to do is also go into default properties and put a little name, future comment to my future self, default properties comment, and saying this is to identify profit greater than 0. So that way, future Dawn comes into this workbook and can just hover over and then see her note to herself. So another good way of having a comment, organization, and future Dawn might be working on a million things since then. So, I can look at this calculation and go, oh, that's what this was for. All right, so organizational tip. Now I'm going to go to the line chart, and I'm going to show the parameter. And I'm going to say, whoop, this is the line chart. So I'm going to create a filter, or true or false Boolean value. I could right click and say create calculated field, or I could duplicate a previous calc. by going up to Worksheet Map and selecting Duplicate. Other ways, just to save time, so I'm going to go ahead and select Edit, and instead of Map, I'm just going to put Line and call this Worksheet Line. And you could put text in there saying this is the Worksheet Line filter, Dawn, future Dawn, but that might be something else that I do going forward. So I'm going to click OK, and now I'm going to put this one on the filters shelf and select True. So it will now hide. So this is the sheet swapping aspect of our workbook. So if I select Map, Map appears, but when I select Line, it disappears. So I'm putting separate filters on each of these sheets so I can have this as line swapping with the little icon. So I'm going to once again duplicate this after I show my parameter, right-click Show Parameter, and select Bar Chart now. And I put a little caption here. This is also a nice way to document a worksheet for your future self. Is if you go up to Worksheet and select Show Captions, by default, they'll describe what's going on in the worksheet. But I like to put notes in them as well, saying Edit Caption and putting a note in for my future self, like, oh, a link here to whatever. This is the blog site, or, you know, those kinds of things. That's how I use captions, but, you know, just documentation purposes. Okay, so right-click, duplicate this worksheet line, and select Edit. And now I'm going to change this to bar. And have to make sure that I'm making it the same case style, title case in this one. Oh, worksheet line, Dawn. Line already exists. Worksheet bar. There we go. I was testing you all to make sure that you were paying attention. I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to put this on the filter shelf and select True. So I've done these same steps for every single sheet now so that we can have some of the sheet swapping. And now I want to create I want to bring in a new data source, which I did here. So what I would suggest is in Google Sheets. Let me see if I can bring this up, sorry. Dawn is with it, I swear. So in Google Sheets or Excel, I created this sheet called chart type. So all it is a column with chart type, line, bar, and map. And I'm going to bring this into my workbook as a new data source, which I have here. So I can see, yep, chart type, and then I have nothing else. So I'm going to go ahead and go to a new sheet, and this is what I'm going to use to create that legend. So that legend from Zach's or mine. I also have my profile where I did the same thing. I'm going to use this new data source to create my sheet here so that we could do this whole functionality with the different icons here. So I'm going to go back to my workbook, and I'm going to put chart type on the columns shelf, and I'm going to put change this to shape and put this chart type on the shapes. And another thing I like to do is make it big across the page. So in my toolbar, I'm going to select entire view, make them all large, and I'm going to hide the field labels here, hide the headers. So I just, whoops, hide the headers here. And I'm going to format and get rid of these row dividers. So one thing also that I want to share is, what if you wanted to format your entire workbook at once and get rid of all those pesky lines and formatting? Did you know that in the formatting menu, there is an option called Format Workbook? And this is where you go to get rid of grid lines all at once. So Format Workbook, turn them off, click on More. I don't want 0 lines. I'm going to turn them off. And Axis Rulers, I'm going to turn those off too. So now any visualizations that you had those lines are gone. So you can format everything all at once with that format workbook. So a nice little tip, get in the habit of doing it when you first start developing. So that way you don't have to right-click format, all the time. So another little tip here, I'm going to rename this sheet legend. And now I'm going to put everything together. So we've got our bar, our line here. And make sure that I am doing the things that I need to do in order here with visual filters. All right, chart type legend, we put the titles on there. Now we're going to put them all together. So I'm going to go to a new dashboard. And another thing I don't like are these phone layouts. If you want to turn them off, you can go up to dashboard, add phone layouts to new dashboards. You can just uncheck that and that will get rid of them if you're going to create a whole bunch of new dashboards. So it doesn't automatically add them to every little dashboard that you have. So I'm going to go ahead and select fixed size. I'll make this, sure, desktop browser. And as Heidi was saying, she is team tile. I am team tile too. So I'm going to go ahead and put a vertical container on my dashboard and then just double click and put all of these on there. See, the next thing we have to do is hide the headers, hide the titles from each of the sheets. And we can see we've already have some options going on now. And I'm removing all the legends. You could always bring them back later if you want to. But the next thing I'm going to do is put another container so I could have that nice little menu. So I could hide filters, that kind of thing. I'm going to go ahead and put another vertical container on the canvas. And I'm going to select Add Show Hide button. All right, we've got our little button over here. I want to stretch it out so we can see it. Another thing I like to do before I make it floating is give it a background color. Floating containers are great to give you real estate. You can hide filters. You can put legends in them. I would recommend that you do that. So I'm going to go ahead and drag our legend sheet inside this. Wait, sorry. I just said I was going to add a color, didn't I? So I'm going to click on the container, go to layout, and give it a background. So give it like a nice light background here, and then make it floating. Okay, and I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to put our legend inside of this floating container. So I'm going to click on dashboard and put our legend inside that little container. I'm going to hide the title and put in like a little text box. So we're helping our clients by saying, please click on an icon below to swap sheets, or something like that. Okay, and we also want to okay, so we have this. Another thing I forgot to do is in the toolbar for the tooltips, put in a little instruction when they hover over it. So I'm going to go back to the sheet and select the tooltip. Please click here to change to the blank chart type. All right. Another thing that I think is really annoying are these include command buttons and allow selection by category. If you're wondering what they do, when you click on an item, you see this keep only and exclude and these other options here, you can get rid of those. Because I've had users that aren't familiar with Tableau accidentally click one of these and they're like, what did I do? So I think it's not worth having them in a worksheet for beginner users. So you can go to your tooltip and then just uncheck those boxes to get rid of those command buttons. So now when you click on something, no little keep only or exclude is there. So a nice little tip there. So I'm going to go back to the dashboard and So you can see here, click here to change to a bar type, line chart, map chart type. Okay, so now we need to do the actions. So want to make sure that we apply the actions to the sheet so our users can click on the images to actually have them swap the background. So I'm going to go up to dashboard and then select actions. And I'm going to say change parameter, because I'm going to create a parameter option. Another quick tip is here, if you click on bar, one sheet and hit Control A, it'll highlight them all at once. So you can check one, and that way you don't have to uncheck every single item. So if you have a bunch of different sheets, you're not scrolling down and unchecking every single one. So I'm going to check the one for legend with select, and then I'm going to select worksheet type as my parameter, and my source field, I'm going to say chart type. I want to make sure that I'm running the action on select, and then I'm going to keep the current value. So I'm going to select OK for this, and then I'm going to select OK again, and I should now be able to sheet swap with image icons. So just a quick tip with a bunch of different tips inside embedded as we're going, but that is how you can use images as icons. And I wanted to tell you about where I went to get these icons. So one thing I tell my students, because I also teach classes at, in JP Morgan, is I use icons8.com. So I do have another blog tip if you've never created a folder for custom shapes. This is where I primarily go for all of the shapes. So you can search for map and you can see all the different images here. Certain sizes are free. So you could put in like a little note in your dashboard where you sourced it. You could do mouse pointer is like another one that I've used a lot as like a hint of like, hey, client, click on this, hover over this for more details about dashboards. So icons8.com. There's also Flat Icon. Flat Icon is where I grabbed a whole bunch of Marvel, if you're a Marvel fan. Marvel icons, Spider-Man, so on. So Flat Icon is also an item. So other things, a little bit of self-promotion. I know I went pretty fast because it's you know, other things that you could do. You could check my blog site for a whole bunch of other tips. I don't have just Tableau. I've got Alteryx and Microsoft Office as well, because there's some cool things you can do with Microsoft Office. Other things, like I said, my YouTube channel, you could check those out. I'm also the lead for Data Plus Women New England chapter. We've only had 4 sessions this year. I'm brand new to that. So we just started this year. So if you want to check out Data Plus Women New England, here is our page. And I will pause. Seems like I haven't had time to have some air. See if anybody has any questions for me. Data Plus Women New England. So it's United States based. So it's English. I see some questions about that. Where did you get the shapes from? Go ahead.
I suppose that was for the Data Plus Women Germany. If the
okay, Germany.
Chat was in England, and I think that they are in English, right, Heidi? I don't see Heidi moving. Yes.
I'm stuck. Yes, Data Plus Women Germany is also in English.
That's perfect. No, but I will put like all the link to that you will send to me, the Data Plus Women, the different chapter tags and everything during the email that I will send soon. Soon. Don't ask me to do it tonight, but soon with the recording. And no, thank you very much for this presentation, Dawn. That was very, very interesting. Do we have any question for Dawn? You have a question from Graham. Let's see. That's cool that we can swap chart type, but what are some practical use case where shaping between a bar chart and line chart for the same data would provide different insight.
So there's other ways that you can enhance like a line and bar chart. So what I would show instead of like a bar versus a line is like you can enhance it by showing standard deviation, or instead of a line, you could do a Bollinger Band. So like, but you can use that like icon, and you can identify your outliers like with a Bollinger Band versus just a regular old line chart. So, I mean, it is over time, but line charts are typically more seasonality. So you have dates, whereas bars may not have dates. As you saw here, it did have dates, but you know, there might be, you might be showing something else with bar charts. So
yeah, and you can also use it like just to swap ideas if you want like an analysis on, I don't know, sales, and the other one is, it doesn't have to be the same data or the same timeline. Also, it's
right.
just a way for funny interaction with the user. So that's also good. Okay, so if we don't have any question, guys, thank you very much everyone for joining today. Don't forget to register yet for the November Tableau user group, so I don't have to harass you by email, please. And I hope that you had a fun night today. And next time you will be seeing Chimdi and Prasam, because I will not be there. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Great talk. All right.